I was reading this book for the past 2 weeks, and I was so blessed, called Thinking Ahead. This book is from Pastor Craig Rochelle, and his main theme is like he's just bringing some points that why we make so many wrong decisions. I don't know about you if you agree with that, but one of the reasons actually he brings in that book why we make so much wrong decisions is because we make a lot of decisions every single day. And so I don't know if you have an idea how many decisions you make every single day. And you want to try to guess how many decisions you think like, hey, maybe 100, 1,000? Wow. 10,000? Right. 35,000 decisions you make every day. And maybe you think, this is crazy. I don't agree with this, Pastor. But listen, since the time the alarm is clicking, you have to make a decision. Should I press the snooze and sleep another 5 minutes? Or should I get up right now? When you get up, should I go to the bathroom? Or should I brush my teeth? Or make a coffee? Should I pray now? Or after I come back? Should I eat? Whether I eat this or that? It's crazy. But we make so many decisions without thinking. Should I turn the lights? And my wife's going to be mad with me. Should I be quieter, or what should I do? 35,000 decisions. That research was made in 2020, November, and it's on that book over there. And it's really good, by the way. If you want to read that book, it's really, really good. So I think you agree with me, and why so many times we make the wrong decision. And basically what it's going to say, if you can think ahead and pre-decide something, that will be easier for you. So you should know ahead what you're going to do tomorrow, and you can make some plans, right? So I'm trying to get every single day more like Americans. You guys are so organized. I was so in shock when I got here like 11 months ago. I was trying to schedule a coffee with somebody from the church, and this guy opened the calendar and says, okay, Pastor, I'll have a moment here in 45 days. So I'm going to schedule a coffee in 45 days ahead? Come on, this is to be very planned, okay? As a Brazilians, our yes doesn't mean yes. So if I see you, I'm changed right now, So listen, normally as a Brazilian, say, hey, let's have a coffee this week. Yeah, let's do. Yeah, we talk later. That means nothing, okay? But now I use my Google Calendar, and I'm scheduling, and I'm telling you, I think I had a coffee more than 80% of our church, and it's been really good because it's a time to start, and it's a time to finish. The Brazilians, we start a moment after actually 30, 40, 50 minutes later, and we don't have a time to finish as well, right? So it's really good to learn some things here as well. But it's interesting because the point that Craig Rochelle is going to bring in his book is because we have to make so many decisions, so many times we make the wrong ones. And when we are in front of really big decisions, normally we freeze, right? And it's interesting because it was supposed to be the opposite, because we make so many decisions now, because we make so many, it would be easier to make the hard ones. But it's the opposite, because we're not prepared for that ones. So, and many times in our life, we're going to be facing a really hard decision to make, and we freeze, even though we know what's the right to do. And sometimes we just struggle with that. And it's not just me and you. Paul said in Romans chapter 7, verse 19, he said, for I do not the good that I want to do, but the evil I don't want to do, this I keep on doing. So it's interesting because sometimes we know what is the right decision to make, and even though we choose the wrong way. And the reason actually we struggle so much about making some good decisions or make a decision is because me and you, we are procrastinators. And that means, if you never heard that word, that you push for tomorrow something that you knew they should do today. We're always trying to push, like, no, this is a hard decision, so let's think more, and maybe next week. But there's some things that you know that you should make a decision right now. And the question is, why we procrastinate that much? It's because it's not our priority, some stuff that we say it is. I'm going to be very clear here. So priority is not what you say or you don't say. It's what you do or you don't do. For example, I'm not saying this because I lost weight, okay? But listen to me. If I say, hey, if somebody asks me, is your health is like a priority for you? I can say, yeah, of course. Everyone here say yes, of course. But why I keep eating and doing the things actually I do is because my priority is not actually losing weight. It's actually fulfill whatever my my body or my flesh wants. So priority is not what I say, it's what I do or I don't do. But let's say this. Someone comes to Maura or Sergio says, hey, I'm going to tell you one thing. You guys are saying your priority is taking care of your health. I'm a doctor, and I just saw your blood test here. You have 20 days left. You have to change your life right now. I'm sure if the doctor tells that to me, I'll be back. I was going to go home running after the church, even this crazy weather, because now is a priority. I was going to be dead in 20 days, so now really became my priority. I stopped to procrastinate because this came to be like a really, really hard decision to make, and now I'm starting to live in another way. So we just started this series 2 weeks ago. Pastor Felipe was preaching the first and the second one, and for me, this book of Ruth is one of the most beautiful ones in the Old Testament. I love this book. And basically, so we are in this third episode right now talking about it's time to restart. And it's beautiful sometimes when you say kind of word like this, restart is good, but listen, let's be honest here. Sometimes restart is really hard. We are in the position right now that we want to restart in our way, but sometimes restart means like you start from the scratch. We broke, our business didn't go well, so restart is not an easy thing to do. And Ruth, she was married to Mahlon, and let's go back here, the first and the second chapter we just, Pastor Felipe preached the past 2 weeks. The first chapter talk about this family, this guy called Elimelech. Means my God is the king. I do whatever my God tells me to do. But being very honest, this guy was married with this woman called Naomi. And when he heard that his people was struggling with the famine, he decided to leave Bethlehem. That means the house of bread. And he goes to a place called Moab. That city, nobody should go if you are a Christian, if you are a believer. But he decides to try to get salvation by his strength, and he lives with his daughter and 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. And they leave because they want to get salvation. When they get there, you know what happened? Elimelech died, Mahlon and Chilion also died. Now Naomi has 2 daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth. And she comes to a point and says, hey, you guys are good to go. I mean, like, there is nothing that we can just, like, we don't have anything more in common, so just find a way. So Orpah said, okay, I'll leave you. But Ruth is the one, on chapter 1, that says to Naomi, and I'm always saying this is the most, like, the strongest believer in the whole Bible. Because she's the one who's going to say to her mother-in-law, wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever you stay, I will stay. Your God's going to be my God. I don't know if you heard this words in the wedding. This is like a woman, like a daughter-in-law telling to a mother-in-law, wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever you stay, I'll stay. Your God's going to be my God. So they go back to Bethlehem. And now they're facing a really hard place, right? They have a house there. We don't know specifically who was their house. But they are in the city right now with nothing. And the chapter 2 starts like this in verse 1 and 2, okay? They say, now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side, a man of standing from the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover grains behind. Anyone whose eyes are find a favor, Naomi said to her, go ahead, my daughter. There is 3 things actually we can learn on this passage here. The first one, when we are restarting, we need to have the right focus. The second one is that we need to have the right attitude. And the third one, we have to believe on the divine providence. Okay, let's start with the first one, the right focus. So again, Naomi is with Ruth there. They have nothing. They're starving, and they have to make a decision. We have to restart. And there is 2 ways. I mean, like, there is 2 people here actually having this conversation. And Naomi, she's really struggling. Well, she lost her husband, 2 of her sons, and she just have like a daughter-in-law there, and they're just like having this discussion. What should we do right now? And of course, you say, hey, let's restart. But restart is not an easy thing to do. So Naomi here, she's going to focus on her pain. She was a victim mentality. She was like, you know, and even if you read the chapter 1, the last verse, Naomi, that means like the pleasant one, the good one. She's going to ask, hey, just call me Mara. I don't want to live anymore. I want to die, God's just like being so, bad with me, so I don't have pleasure in my life anymore, so it's over. So, listen, we understand, right? She faced a really hard time in her life. But Ruth, she can see beyond. And she's not focused on the problem. She's focused on the opportunity. Yes, her stomach maybe was empty, but the fields have plenty, right? So Naomi said, hey, can you just let me go? Can you bless me? Because I'm going to go to try to find some food on the fields. Let me go, because there is nothing that we can do. We're going to die if we stay here. And it's really interesting because sometimes we just read some kind of this passage and we say, yeah, that was the normal thing to do. But listen, it's not easy. It start from the scratch is not an easy thing to do. So we get confused sometimes as a Christians that we say we are waiting on the Lord. I don't know if you ever said that. And it's really confusing because when I say I'm waiting for someone, that means I'm still, right? I'm waiting for somebody to come here. I'm going to be still. But listen to me. Every time the Bible means you waiting on the Lord means movement. Doesn't mean standing. So if you're praying and waiting for the Lord for a new job or a family, if you want to get married, you have to move. But sometimes as well we get confused because you use those kinds of expressions in church. We are waiting on the move of the Lord. Listen, a time that you understood the gospel, that Jesus saved you, you are the move of the God. You are the move of the Lord. Because Jesus changed our life, we start to walk towards change people's life as well. So Naomi said, I'm going to be here still. Ruth said, listen, I'm going to go. I'm going to move. I know that God can talk to us. God can do a miracle, but I have to move. It's really interesting because, in Brazil, who discovered Brazil was the Portuguese, right? And so we have a really strong relationship with the Portuguese. And that was 1755. That was the worst earthquake like in Europe, the whole story. 1755. 60,000 people died. I have a picture of that. Actually, it's a painting. 60,000 people died on the November 1st of 1755, right? So there was a king back then, and his name was the King Dom José. He had a panic attack. He disappeared. Nobody could find him. Can you imagine if you are president or king of a place that 60,000 people died? But you have to make a choice. You have to make a move. And this guy just disappeared. So there is another person, another guy who comes to this story called Marquis of Pombal. This guy was a Secretary of State of the Kingdom of Portugal, and he made 4 very clear decisions. And because he knows, listen, if we stand here and do nothing, we're gonna die as well. 85% of the building was affected. Can you imagine? 85% of all the construction was affected. 60,000 people just got killed there, just died there. And this guy made the 4 really simple decisions. He said, first thing, let's bury the dead. Of course, we can cry, we can suffer, but we have to move. Secondly, let's care for the living. Third one, close the borders. Just donation will come in. And this is really interesting because we say we are one city, one family, we are one nation, but when sometimes we face really hard season, we just don't want to disappear. No. Everybody's going to stay here because what? The fourth one, we're going to rebuild the whole city. So we are one family, we are one people, we're going to rebuild. Let's bury the dead, let's take care of the living. Nobody gets out, let's just rebuild this. And it's interesting, this story, because changing the history of Portugal. That was, maybe you see this is, no, this is maybe, that was the only thing that actually he could do it. But listen, there is so many times in our life that we know what we have to do, and we just like, we still, I'm waiting for God to move. There is season maybe your marriage is not doing good, and you're just like not moving, you're just complaining. So waiting for the move of the Lord means you have to move. You have to try to change, not be still. So on this moment right now, Ruth decide it's my responsibility to have the right focus. But the second thing that we learn on this passage, we need to have the right attitude. Look what it says in verse 8. So Boaz said to Ruth, my daughter, listen to me, don't go and glean the other field and don't go away from here. Stay here with the woman who works for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting, and follow along after the woman. I have told the man not to lay a hand on you. When you are restarting and have the right attitude, three things you need to have: courage, humility, and gratitude. The first one, courage. So she was a young immigrant. She wasn't from that city. And even though she didn't have an option, I'm going to stay here. No, she decided to go to the field, to glean, to try to find some food to take back to her mother-in-law. They have to restart from the ground. And when she goes there, she had to have courage. It's not an easy thing for a woman, and she wasn't from there. She was a Moabite, so many women was like a rape back then because they're like by herself on the field. They're not from people from Israel, so they're there, and she had courage to go and do whatever she could do back then. She didn't have any more opportunity. There was just one only decision that she could make it, so she moves toward the fields. And when she's there, and we're going to face those moments as well, we have, and we need to have courage. I know there's some times in our life that it is really hard to make some decisions, but you need to have courage. There was this guy, he's from Brazil, his name is a philosopher called Ariano Suassuna, and I think the way how he talks is really simple, and he's from Northeast of Brazil as well. And when somebody asks him if courage has everything to do with we be optimists, he says, kind of. And it's really nice the way he's trying to explain that. And the way that he explained that is like this. He say, listen, the pessimist is a bore, is a boring guy. Everyone here has a person who's a pessimist, right? Whatever we say, let's do, it's not going to work. Hey, let's try to start something else. No, it's not a good idea. Come on, let's be honest. Somebody who's always a pessimist is such a bored person. But also, he said, the optimist is a fool. Listen, if you go into a war, and if you're so optimist, hey, we're going to win, we don't have to be prepared. Or if you coach like a team, we don't have to do practice because you're going to win. The person is always an optimist. He's not ready. But he say, the right thing to do and to be is to be a hopeful realist. It's nice, this, right? So you know there is a problem. You know there is something actually you're going to face. It's going to be hard. This is to be like a realistic. But you can be hopeful optimist. So it's not just about being a pessimist or optimist. You say, okay, I know what I am, but I'm going to have hope that this thing is going to come up. So I think the day that I heard most times someone asking me to be courage was when I was preaching in Rio de Janeiro once. Rio de Janeiro, of course, if we talk about Rio, you know, the place is amazing, but it's really dangerous as well. So, but also, I really want to do a thing when I was there. I was preaching like 4 or 5 times like a year in Rio de Janeiro, and I always really want to do a hang gliding, right? I don't know if you've ever seen this stuff back in Brazil, and I really want to, but it's so expensive. But I was preaching at church back in Brazil. I preached like 4 times, like on Sunday morning, on the Monday morning. I was preparing. I was going back to my city like in the evening. So this pastor calls me, says, "Hey, pastor, what are you doing?" So I said, "Listen, I'm here in the hotel. I want to ask you, do you have courage to go on one of those?" He says, "Come on, man, it's my dream, but I don't have the money." He says, "Listen, do you know what's grace?" He says, "Come on." I started to speak in tongues. I was so happy. I'm just kidding. I was so happy with that thing. So he took me there, and was me, and this guy was American. He called this guy from this company, and it was the pastor who invited me and other 2 friends, all from here, and they're all like really like skin, like, you know, like so. And the way there, they start to call, say, "Hey, I have 3 persons here." They start to ask how much we weigh. So, and for sure, I was the biggest one, you know. So, and when we got there, there was this guy came up the car. "Hey, I'm going to take you. I have 40 years of experience, you know. Yeah, let's go with me." The other guy came, "Hey, 35 years of experience," the other guy. And I was like just left over there. You know why? Because of my, you know, my weight there. So there's this guy, he started to walk toward us. He says, "Hey, are you the only ones left over?" He says, "Yes, I'm taking you." I says, "Hey, how much, you know, how your experience?" And he says, yeah, I've been doing this for the past 2 years. He says, "Come on, man." So you have to go to a place to sign some papers. And basically, if you start to read, you don't go. It's basically you just sign. If something happens, if you die, whatever, it's your problem. So I signed, and it's like 40 minutes to get on that place there. So on that platform, right, this guy, the first one went, the second one, when I was just ready to go, the guy stopped and I says, hey, are you a pastor? He says, yes, I'm a pastor. Can we just pray? I says, listen, I don't have a problem with prayer. But if you ask me to pray, I mean, like, why you ask me that? He says, no, listen, it's just protection. I says, okay, I know that God needs to protect us. But so he came to me and says, listen, can you see this platform, Pastor? If you stop to run in the middle, if you get scared, we're going to die. When I say run, you run. Because if you stop run, I mean, like, I cannot pull you. So if you stop run, we're going to have an accident. You want to go? I says, yeah. So I says, hey, can I just send this audio and a video to my wife? And this was the audio, and this what happened on that day in Rio de Janeiro.
Amor, família, igreja, amei todos vocês. E simplesmente orem, acho que vai dar tudo certo, mas caso não dê, esse vídeo vai ficar para a eternidade. Foi um prazer viver, obrigado, Jesus. Meu amigo, olha isso daqui. É tranquilo, é só você correr aqui e depois vir pra cá, não tem nada.
That was the first and last time that I did that my whole life, right? But I remember on that platform over there, this guy says, hey, you have to be brave, you have to have courage. And of course, I mean, like, I'm not comparing this to your life. There's some situations actually we're going to face. But Ruth, she had courage. She was like, hey, there is no other option. I'm going to have to restart. And even though I'm going to face really hard moments, I have to have courage. But the second thing she has here is humility. It's beautiful because she doesn't expect to be treated as a different way because she knew she wasn't from Israel. She was a foreign, and now she's gleaning on the other fields. And listen, it's nice what she does. Look, what's they say? Let me go to the fields and pick up the leftover that was behind. You know, there was a thing actually the people from Israel used to do. They used to leave some of the food, actually, they pick it up and just leave for the poor, for the vulnerable ones, because no one should die of starving. And I think on one hand, it's beautiful because they used to do that. But the second thing is, you have to be very humble in humility to do a kind of work like that. It's a really simple thing. People doesn't want to start that way. We want to start big, right? You have some conversation with some young people. They don't want to go like and start from scratch. They want to start big because the social media, there are so many nice things actually on the media. So they don't want to start from the scratch. And the only thing that Ruth could do, like, hey, I'm going to start in the most like humble place. I'm going to be there, just get the leftover. Come on, it's not everybody who wants to do that. But if you want to restart, you have to be ready for that. Third, she had such a grateful attitude. Look what said in verse 10. At this, she bowed down her face to the ground and asked him, why have you found such a favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner? It's nice because she has a really nice heart, and she recognizes, listen, if I'm getting some stuff here, some food to take back home, it's because you have been blessing me. So she was so grateful. John Piper, about this verse here, what he says, Ruth knows she's a Moabite. From a natural point of view, she was a great disadvantage, a foreigner. They resented but accept the fact. As a non-Israeli, she does not expect any special treatment. His response to Boaz's kindness is humble surprise. It's different from most of the people today. We have a sense of the entitlement. We expect kindness, and we are surprised and resentful if our rights are not met. But Ruth expressed a feeling that she's unworthy, failing her face. Proud people are not amazed when they are treated well. They are not deeply grateful, but the humble ones, yes. We have to learn this lesson, you know. She was so grateful that that man was just helping her. He didn't have to. So she bound her face. And, you know, sometimes we do some stuff in church and we don't understand. Do you know why we raise our hands because we're singing? Because this means like submission. Hey, I'm here. In Brazil, we know about this because the people use guns to take some stuff of you. So you just raise your hand. Hey, just don't mess with me. The reason actually we do that is in respect. It says, hey, God, I'm here. I'm all yours. So we pray, we put on our knees because we are grateful. Everything that we have is given by grace. And sometimes when some stuff doesn't come as that we expect, we are so mad. We don't have this grateful heart. So you need to learn this right attitude. Be a person with courage, humility, and gratitude. Third and last one. When you are restarting, you have to believe in divine providence. And this is the main theme of this book of Ruth, right? And this is so beautiful. We're going to read some verse here. Start with verse 3. So after she had the conversation with Naomi, she left the house. And look what they say in verse 3. So she went out, entered the field, and began to glean behind the harvest. As it turned out, it was a coincidence, right? She was working the field of belonging to Boaz, who was from the clan of Elimelech. Just then Boaz arrived from Bethlehem and raided the harvest. The Lord be with you. The Lord bless you, they answered. Boaz asked the overseers of the harvest, why does the young woman belong to you? They replied, she's a Moabite who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvest. She came to the field and it was remained here from the morning until now, except for a short and rest and shelter. So on divine provision, guys, we're going to see that there is so many ways that God can actually provide and help you. But I just want to mention two here, right? The first one, what we call in theology, we call it as an epiphany. That is a great visible miracle. Listen, if you read the Old Testament, you're going to see so many times a big miracle just happen, like bread just like coming as a rain, you know. And sometimes like Moses when he opened the Red Sea. This is an epiphany. But it's also so many times that God is going to use us to be his hand, to be his arm, to be his feet. And we're going to see so many doors and opportunities to appear. So now, listen, because sometimes we're waiting to the move of the Lord, we have this expectation of epiphany. So God, if I ask you, can you remember the last time that God spoke to you? Maybe you're going to go back like in some history, like 5, 10 years, 15 years ago. And I'm not saying he wasn't there. But God's still talking today. But you don't listen. But I'm sure if you stop just for a moment and just like think how God bless your life as a parent, how God talked to you about through your kids, how God talked to you with someone just just send you a text or just say, hey, let's have some coffee and just ask how you are, or just hug you or cry with you. But we have this idea of God just making this great and epiphany miracles. Listen, he still does. I really believe that. But there is another way that God speaks today. So it's really interesting because Ruth had to not just have the right way to face life, but also she had to believe that God wants to use so many ways to show, hey, I love you. So she was there, and just certainly, we just read here the verse 3, just like coincidentally, she was like harvesting to someone called Boaz. And it's really nice when I say this story because there were so many times we just like maybe says, no, you know, Pastor, it's been a long time that I don't see or don't hear or I don't feel God talking to me. Just try to read the Bible and you're going to face it. There are so many stories in the Bible that, of course, big miracles happen. For example, one of the most like knowing like a miracle that happens in the Bible is John chapter 6, the great like multiplication. Remember that? 5 breads, 2 fish, right? So if I ask you what's the big point of that miracle, it says, hey, the multiplication. I mean, like there were so many people there. The Bible says it was 5,000 men, so maybe like 15,000 people. And of course, this is like an epiphany, the great miracle, right? The great multiplication. But also on that story, there is so many things that just happened there. The first one is because when Jesus get there, he asked all the disciples. Of course, he knew what he was going to do, but he asked the disciples, how are we going to feed all these people? He knew, but he asked them. And there was 2 answers that are really like completely different from one another. One really believed in divine providence, and the other one did not. So Philip and Andrew, one guy said, hey, you know, Jesus, not even with 200 denarius, like 200 coins, we can buy enough food for these people. This is like normally the way we should respond, right? I'm like, this is impossible to make this right. But Andrew was the one. You know what he did? Come on, let's say here, let's be honest here. If I say, hey, we have here 200 people to feed this afternoon, and we are locked, we cannot open the doors. Can you imagine if someone just come here and says, hey, I have 3 cupcakes, so we good? What would you say? Come on, we're talking something seriously. Andrew was the guy who brought the kid. Can you imagine the discussion line there? How are we going to feed these people? And just Andrew just says, hey, I have an idea. I just found this boy with 5 breads and 2 fish. Come on, what would you just say if you're there? Come on, man. We just like talking something like really serious, and you just come with this joke here. And we get stuck. Sometimes we don't want to restart because we are looking too much like what we have in our hands. Maybe just say, hey, Pastor, I cannot just restart. What I have here is just like some breads and some fish. Please, you have to believe in this divine provision. Doesn't matter what you have. The Lord that we worship here can transform this. You do what you can do. He's going to take care of the things we cannot do. Amen, church. So you say, this is nothing. Of course, it's nothing. But the miracle who does is the Lord. So now, Ruth is there, laying on the field, and certainly just to be introduced to this guy called Boaz. Look what it says, verse 11. Boaz replied, I have been told about you and have been done to your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. How you left your father and mother in your homeland and came to live with the people you didn't know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be rich, rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord, she said. You have put me in an easy speaking kindly into a servant that I don't have to be standing for one of the servants. At the mealtime, Boaz said to her, come over here. Just have some bread and dip it in the white vinegar. So when she sat down with the harvests, he offered her some of the roasted grain and ate all she wanted and some left over. I think you agree with me now that Boaz was already in love. Right? So for 2 reasons we can say this. Maybe she was really beautiful. But the second one, he was really impressed because she worked really hard every single minute of that day. And now she's like, hey, can you just come and sit here? You can just like have some of my grains here, you know? And he was in love. I remember the first time that I saw my wife, Bruna. She was from São Paulo, but she used to live in Fortaleza, like 500 miles from my hometown. And I was in the summer camp. My uncle used to be a Presbyterian pastor back in Fortaleza, so I was there for a summer camp during Carnival. And I remember the last day, just after the summer camp, a friend of mine says, hey, let's go to a birthday party. I says, who birthday was? It's not important. As a Brazilian bro, we just go. We love parties. So I was like, no, I'm not going. Listen, we are Christians. Let's go. So I was there. The birthday party, I didn't even know whose birthday was it. And I had to go inside of the house. So we have barbecue there. And for the first time, when I was walking to the living room, I just saw that woman, that girl there. She had a piercing over here, like a rock and roll style. I was like, oh my gosh. So I came back to a friend of mine and says, hey, can you introduce me to her? I says, listen, she's the girlfriend of the guy whose birthday is today. And I started to pray so the Lord could just like take that guy away from that day on. I'm just kidding. It's been 20 years that I have been with my wife. But I can tell you, something happened when of course, I didn't know her. But you know, I mean, like there was some stuff actually happening, you're just like, oh, that was actually something that actually happened to me when I saw my wife for the very first time. We've been together for 20 years. And Boaz here, he already was really interested in Ruth. And this is the last two verses that we're going to read. As she got up and gleaned, Boaz gave orders to him, man, hey, let her gather among the sheaves and don't reply her. Even put out some of the stalks in her from the bushes and leave them for her to pick up and don't rebuke her. So Ruth planned the field into the evening. Then she, Thursday, barely shadow gathering and amount about of the effort. Was like a amount of food for 1 month. She was gleaning for just for 1 day. When she got back, she just presented everything to her mother-in-law. Listen to me. Do you know what is really beautiful in this story here? It's because it just seemed for some people, what a kind of a coincidence, right? This is a coincidence. I mean, like, this is actually how this stuff happened. I can tell you one thing. Boaz means strength, position. Dr. Tim Keller, he was a president of City to City. He influenced Pastor Felipe a lot, and myself as well, in the way actually he planted the church. And he was one of the theologians who say that all the Bible points to Jesus, all the Bible, even the Old Testament. And you can see Jesus in all these stories. Listen, Boaz here is a person who gave the new hope. He was going to redeem the history actually was supposed to be over. And now Boaz here is a clear picture of Christ as the Savior. And I'm not saying that Boaz is Christ, right? I'm just saying that he's pointing to the cross. So, it's a coincidence for some of you guys here. Have you ever thought about how you end up here this morning? There is so many things happening in your life. And it's always a new opportunity for you to be forgiving, for restarting. I don't know what you're facing in your family, in your business. I have no idea. But when you are restarting, you have to believe in divine providence. So, for some of you, what a coincidence, right? She was there on that field and just met this guy who got in love with her. Do you know who is Boaz? Of course, he had a mother. Her mother, her name was Rahab, the prostitute. Do you remember in Samuel when, Joshua, when Joshua was trying to get to Jericho and he sent 2 spies to get inside of Jericho? The woman who was hide the spies from Israel, her name was Rahab. She was a prostitute. So Joshua said, hey, the city is going to be destroyed, but nothing's going to happen to you and to your kids. Coincidence? The name of the boy of Rahab, the prostitute, is Boaz. Boaz got married to Ruth, and they have a son called Obed. Obed has another son called Jess. What a coincidence, right? Do you know who is Jess? The father of King David. And 14 generations after, the living bread, Jesus Christ was born. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. This is redemption. This is actually believing the divine providence. Maybe you're facing a really hard time. It's like, Pastor, I don't have hope. I don't have courage. I don't know what's happening to me. Hey, don't be still. Waiting for God means movement. You are the move of God. You are so loved by the Father that He sent His Son Jesus to save you, to redeem your story, just the same way that He redeemed the story of Ruth. He is here today. Every single Sunday we have this gathering here, we just say, hey, Lord, we need to have the right focus. We need to make some decisions. but just help me to have the attitude that I need to have. So this is our prayer for this morning, for this Sunday morning. Let's pray. Just bow your hand.